recording.
You know, the problem is he's using an Apple.
Here we go. Now we're going.
We're on. We're live.
We're live.
He's on iOS 7. Fuck you.
Welcome, everybody, to O'MearaCast. This week's episode is brought to you by the Mike O'Meara Show's Amazon page, where each and every day you can save money and support the show you love by going and buying everything that you need for the holidays, for birthdays, for just your everyday needs. You know, whether it's your Cottonelle wet wipes for the bathroom, or it's your, candied corn for Halloween,
right?
Or, hey, Jason probably gets all of his Twinkies there by the barrel at MikeO'MearaShow.com/Amazon. What?
If there's one fat joke I really hate, it's that one. My friends used to do that line all the time with Twinkies, and I remember blowing up at one of them on a road trip because I don't eat Twinkies.
Why don't you? Okay, fat guy, why don't you eat Twinkies?
Just not a big fan.
I
don't find them that good.
Yellow cake stuffed with whipped cream? Hello? What's wrong with you? And even better, when it's fried. Go to the carnival
I
and
have to
fried.
agree with Jason. I don't
fried.
like them either.
I bet you both eat ding-dongs.
No, I don't eat any of that junk.
No.
You don't eat any of that junk?
No, never.
No Hostess, no Twinkies, no, let me think, Little Debbie's, none of that.
None.
I will tell you what I had a good long look at the grocery store yesterday. Sarah Lee is making snack cakes now. And they have a tiny coffee cake with a cheese top. That caught my eye.
All right. The way your social life is going, the fact that you're looking at Sarah Lee and she isn't real is just pathetic.
Oh, it's the name of a company.
I understand that. I'm just saying you'd be better off in the produce section looking at some melons versus sitting over in the Twinkie aisle looking at the fake Sarah Lee.
Well, I was in the bread aisle for bread.
Why don't you ask Aunt Jemima on a date? That would be a perfect date for you. On that note, this week has been just personally filled with all kinds of stuff, and we won't get into it because the show isn't about my stuff. But just so that everybody knows, right off the bat, we're on Ustream today. Thank you, Steve, for getting us up on Ustream, and thanks, Steve, every week helping us get this set up going so we can be on Ustream. Hello, Ustreamers. Just so you know, here's my announcement. Blog Talk Radio is going bye-bye. It's out of here. Yeah, so we're done. We're going to be done with that. It's going to come to an end because two reasons. One, financially, not worth it. Two, honestly, we're doing the Ustream thing, and it doesn't seem really necessary. We will find another way to take calls on this show in a way that's not quite Oscar and Rob duct taped together. I think we will find a way to technologically be able to take calls and interact with people on the phones.
Right.
But that's why I said for today's show, I was going to open up the phone lines. They're wide open, and it was going to be a freestyle show. Your topics, give a call in so that we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to bring up. But, Jason, you contacted me earlier this week. We'll start off with you because you wanted to talk about Breaking Bad, and honestly, dude, that was Monday. Today is Saturday. I didn't watch the show. I'm over it.
That's fine.
What do you want to talk about?
Neither one of you watched.
I watch it. I do watch it.
Okay. Well, what I took a little bit of, I don't know, not offense exactly to, but one, Mike's weird late to the game obsession combined with his pissing all over the finale.
I don't think he did that at all.
Oh, he didn't like the finale.
I think it was a mixed bag. I think it finally came at the end of his discussion about it. He said it came down to one thing, one small little detail that he didn't care for, but everything else about the episode he loved. Because he started by saying, I didn't really like it, and then as he talked about it, it was like, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Oh, by the way, this car was blue, or something. I don't remember exactly what, but it was some small detail.
Yeah, I can't remember precisely what it was that stuck in his craw so much, but that I think he wanted more out of it. I think he wanted it. What I feel like I recall is he was sort of in that group that generally wants the bigger, bangier finish. The explosions, the deaths.
Nobody
more
ever
action
gets
than
that.
what they had. I know.
Come on, man.
And the thing
Look,
of it is that show isn't built that way. It isn't done that way. And the fact is, he probably was feeling that way because he's been marathoning it for the last 2 months.
No, and I understand what you're saying, but you're also talking about Breaking Bad. I was talking about this with Steve before you showed up. This isn't MASH. This is Breaking Bad.
No.
This does not have the numbers. This is not Friends or Seinfeld or any of those.
Pulled some numbers on that finale.
I'm not saying it didn't pull good numbers, but in comparison, in the whole environment's changed when you're dealing with 150 networks versus 4. But you're talking about a show that is still very niche. In comparison to MASH, which was... everybody was tuning in. Everybody was watching, and everybody tuned in for that finale, and it meant something.
Right.
And
he had 3 networks. And
everybody was happy with, if I remember correctly, everybody was very happy with that particular finale. But talk about something like The Sopranos, it was 50-50. I was on the side of, I like the ending.
I do too.
Because I liked leaving it open-ended and kind of out there. But I know a lot of people that really wanted to see whether or not this was going to be Tony's demise.
Well, what I will say is I think there was a really good comment made recently on a pop... Still draining?
Sorry, yeah.
On a pop culture website.
Somebody still has a cold.
Yeah.
On a big pop culture site, Grantland.com, ESPN writer Bill Simmons, it's his website. He was talking on the subject leading into the end of Breaking Bad, and what he said was, the bottom line is this. Regardless of how well executed the ending was, regardless of your intent or how your audience takes it, the bottom line is when 75% of your viewership is either incensed by it or thinks that their cable went out, you probably didn't do it right. You probably didn't handle it as well as you could have. Maybe you do an HBO bug in the corner while you do that black screen so they know there isn't a service interruption. Like one of the jokes I read the other day was, well, everybody was so upset about, Walter in the end of Breaking Bad, and they're like, if they had just stayed past the credits to watch the sequence where he comes back to life and gets away, but, most of their cables probably cut that off. And that was just a great baiting comment.
Yeah.
So Sopranos was a very argumentative ending, and Vince Gilligan talked about the fact that after that show, he said he liked the end of The Sopranos quite a bit, but his show was always designed to be A to Z with a firm resolution and tying up all the loose ends, and this was the ending he wanted as an artist, and this is the ending he delivered.
All right, Steve, so you watched it.
I'm still holding up hope that Walt is still alive, that
he's dead.
They gave him CPR or whatever, and saved him.
So
at least that's what I'm going to.
What did you think? What did you think in general of the ending?
I liked it. I liked the entire way that they wrapped up all the loose ends, and I thought it was a great series, and I really enjoyed it.
I think the reason
I'm just so over all the talk about Breaking Bad.
Well, I think the reason it gets so much ink is most reviewers viewed it as they all convinced themselves that Vince Gilligan was a moralist, and that was the thread of the show. People who make bad decisions and do bad things get punished. You let a girl choke to death on her vomit, and pieces of a plane rain out of the sky later the same season. You do bad things, you get what's coming to you, and he's been slowly sowing this. Well, that did happen. I mean, the spoiler alert, like they killed off major characters, they did all that stuff in the 2 to 3 episodes prior. Like, people argue that the episode before it, the 2 episodes from the last, the one where he takes Holly, and the one where he leaves, most people consider that like the end of the series. That is Walt having his life crumble around him because of his activities, where everything goes away and it's no longer what he had in mind originally. Now, in the end, the reason so many critics are angry is he was allowed to get the death he wanted. He fixed everything. He accomplished the goals he set out to originally. He kind of got a level of forgiveness from Skyler. He got the final goodbye to the baby. He fixed Elliot's wagon. He got the money to the family. He figured the whole thing out, and he died on his terms. And people are angry about that because they feel like he should have been punished, or other people wanted him to live and get away with it. Like, even people in their writing staff are split about how it should have ended.
Welcome to the real world where, guess what? bad guys get away with with doing bad things.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Wall Street. And good guys don't get enough credit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of real world to a certain extent. But let's. Okay, if we're going to talk about endings, though,
Right.
I mean, honestly, so you like the ending,
I think it
Steve
was,
liked the ending.
I was fine with it.
Give me a show that you watched throughout that gave you an ending that you didn't like. The one that pops to mind for
Does
me.
anyone have to think for more than 30 seconds about this?
Seinfeld was the one that popped into my mind first because it was the most ridiculous, stupid,
It's not mine.
unresolving ending. Not that it needs to resolve anything, but it was pointless. It really was pointless.
So
by
was
the time it got
so was the series. For 9 years, that show. It's there within their own jokes, within their own show within a show that they later did. That it's a show about nothing. It has no point. It has no major, larger scope. It was puffery, which also, by the way, ironically, the show you go to first from Breaking Bad shared Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
He was the dentist, but
Oh yeah,
he was the dentist. He was the dentist on Seinfeld.
Oh right, yeah.
The one that converted to Judaism for the jokes. I get where you're going. For me, I don't have to think 30 seconds to tell you Lost.
Oh yeah.
See, that was a show I didn't get into, so therefore,
That's why.
I mean,
that was
for me,
such a disappointment. Huge
But it's
disappointment.
here's the thing. If that had been the
it was
ending,
purgatory, right?
If that
Right.
had been the ending,
Well, we don't know. We really don't know.
It was
It's
sort of a
it's
bridge
still
way to the
unanswered.
afterlife. Yeah, it was confusing. Like they say themselves that the island was real,
Yeah.
but it's the sideways reality that was introduced in the last season or two that was purgatory.
Whatever it was too religious for my taste.
It was all well. It's not even the religion. It was just all very confusing in how they laid it out. But the bigger issue, I think, for like why I was disappointed and most people were disappointed, is half the country sussed that out at some point in time during. I mean, Stephen King was on it the first season. He called it in his Entertainment Weekly column saying, I'm convinced it's purgatory. I hope it's purgatory. It seems like a perfect story construct, and I hope they wrap it up in 5 seasons so it doesn't get overdrawn and overwritten. And that's exactly what happened in season 3, and then they finally negotiated an endpoint to write to.
And there was so
and it
much
got a little tighter.
unanswered in Lost.
There was a ton unanswered, but
yeah.
they also made the point, the point has been made by some good TV critics that television is not movies. Movies are there to tell you a story from start to finish in a finite period of time. Television's construct is to run for eternity. That's really the idea of success traditionally in TV, is you write a series like MASH that can air for a decade or longer.
Yeah.
That's the goal. I mean, The Simpsons has been on for 25 years. That's the
I don't
goal.
know-
That's
I don't
the
know
money
why.
well. Because it makes money, damn it. It doesn't matter if
It's
the
still a
quality's
good show.
there anymore.
I understand, but
it's not nearly as good as it used to be.
No,
Yeah.
but it's still good. It's still watchable.
And
I watch a season and I get one or two episodes that I really enjoy, but outside of that, most of them I could throw out.
I
at this
bounced
point.
on The Simpsons a couple of years ago.
I
I just had enough. I was
there's-
getting diminishing
I find
returns.
there's at least one laugh out loud moment every episode.
Oh, sure. There's moments. They've got Harvard writers. They ought to be able to come up with one joke that it lands. But it just, when the joke was made through South Park, that The Simpsons had already done it. So South Park was out of fresh ideas, and what could you do that hadn't already been done? Well, The Simpsons has done everything The Simpsons can do. It's just repeating it. So, I mean, okay, great. The big news story is they're going to kill off a character again. Fantastic. Congratulations. Who cares?
Well,
it's not like it's going to be a major character. It really isn't.
Again, it dominated the news Monday. It was the dominating factor until all of a sudden there was an incident in D.C.
Again.
Actually, before that, the whole government shutdown.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad was
Boo.
all the news until government shutdown happened, and people started really noticing. Oh, this really happened. People are out of work right now because a bunch of idiots can't figure out how to just say yes. How to vote and vote in a way that people keep their jobs.
Oh, it's not that they can't figure out how to say yes. It's that they don't want to say yes. You have a group of idiots that have been put into office by other idiots because they were fed up with the government. So they elected a great line the other day. I think it was Will or somebody put it on Facebook, and they said, I thought it was the leftists that believed in anarchy. And I think that's a great line because that's exactly what's happening is these guys they've accomplished their greatest ultimate goal. They've shut down the federal government.
Well, listening to the show this week, I mean, one of the things that kind of stood out for me was when Oscar was asked about his drive-in, and he goes, like 50% of the traffic is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because
nobody's working.
Because I've driven in that area before.
Right.
I know what that traffic is like, and I can only imagine what would happen if 50% was gone.
Yeah.
It starts.
You think this will still be going on when we go down there?
Say that again?
You think this will still be going on
No.
when we go down there?
No, it'll probably be done.
No, it won't drag on that long.
One can only hope from the factor of
Right,
traffic will be easier. But no, I hope that everybody gets back to work as soon as possible.
Well, let's be fair. We'd be arriving in D.C. Friday late in the evening and leaving on a Sunday. How are government jobs going to affect us?
No, absolutely. But when
That's true.
these types of situations happen, we listen to TMOS. The guys obviously are going to react and respond because it's affecting their lives. Not necessarily directly because they're not government workers, but they live in that area.
Ground
they
zero.
have friends, they have colleagues around that area that are being affected by this.
Yep.
And when Oscar put it that way, and he said 50% of the traffic was gone, there was something about that comment that it really was able to... I was able to see the glass full of water, or half empty of water. I was able to understand it in a way differently than the fact of whether or not I notice it, because I'm not going down to government services right now. I'm not going to these offices. I have no need. So unless the post office stops delivering my mail, at this point, it's really not affecting me personally.
Well, did you see the other great grandstanding BS moment that came out of it with the World War II veterans not being allowed into the one park and having a fit, and then you had senators getting involved and grandstanding about how dare you not allow these heroes of our country to be... Well, first of all, you're the jackass that closed it. You're the jackass that closed it. You didn't figure out a way to keep it open.
Yeah.
So don't yell at the one guy in government who's actually doing what he's being paid for by not letting people in. Because you're getting paid to not work as a senator right now. They're all drawing their salaries, folks. They're still getting paid even though the government shut down. They're just not in session. Isn't that nice? Now, meanwhile, you got other government workers who are working and not getting paid. And I thought Jon Stewart made a great point the other night on Daily Show when he closed from that comment. He said, you know what else got shut down by them? Meals on Wheels, which feeds like 500,000 veterans in the United States daily. He's like, they're not getting their meals. But boy, we really care about our veterans, don't we? It's all about what's a news op and what's in front of a camera and not what reality is.
Well, let's talk
and what
about
people actually need.
Let's talk about it from a place that's close to home.
Right.
Mr. Unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Unemployed.
Yep.
Now, I right now can't draw unemployment for reasons.
Right.
You, though, are in that process, but they're not processing unemployment payments as far as I'm aware.
They are.
They are?
Yeah, they are. I had my interview Wednesday by phone. Because state government's still open.
Oh, that's right, because you're dealing with the state.
I'm dealing with the state, not the federal office to get my unemployment. It's Vermont state unemployment insurance. So the state
they
is
get
still
all
open.
the money from the
They do get a lot of their money from the federal office, so we'll see whether or not they'll be able to pay. But I'm still waiting to find out if I'm going to be
I'm
paid.
thinking about that because the sequester affected my wife significantly because she's been unemployed for a year and a half, and she was on the federal side of things, because the state ran out and they put her into the federal program, and because of the sequester, it all of a sudden came to an end a couple of weeks back.
Right.
So there's, her hope during that time was, well, hopefully the sequester will let loose. No, it's even more extreme. We're just going to shut down everything, and so nobody's going to get paid. But regardless, that's not my major issue. My major issue is the fact that some guy who we elected, and I say this in very general sense, regardless what state I were to sit in and who was representing me, some guy said this is okay to put a lot of people out of work, even temporarily, rather than having them, because these are people who want to go to work. These are people who want to do their jobs, and you are now making them sit at home.
Here's one thing I'll say as a left-leaning political individual.
Great for the economy.
Oh, it's phenomenal for the economy. Boy, there's nothing like taking paychecks out of the system, taking services out of the system, putting the at-risk at further risk, and removing any funds they have. It does have a systemic effect, and these pinheads don't grasp any of that.
Yeah.
They don't get it. It's the same thing that goes back to in the first in the first tenure of the Obama administration, everybody lost their mind on the Republican side of the scale about the fact that he saved the auto industry. Well, it was discussed that if you shut down the American auto industry, the ripple effect from the jobs loss was going to be phenomenal, and we would have gone into a new depression.
Absolutely.
The money lost, because it's not just the line workers. It's all the people that are related to all of that. The sales, the parts production companies that are making pieces for the cars. It travels so much further than 2 or 3 auto plants. And people don't understand that. They don't understand big picture.
If government workers aren't getting paid, they're not going to spend their money.
That's right. Well,
and
tell me about it.
Not only do you have that, but you have all the military contractors and defense producers and all kinds of stuff. This is going to ripple through the economy.
Well, they don't stop spending money on the military.
Oh no, they
oh, I know.
They've been cut off. They don't.
There's enough people who aren't getting paid. It will make it.
It's going to have an effect.
A lot of these things, they require inspectors to come out to the factories, inspect and test everything, and those inspectors aren't working.
There are a lot of people who are not drawing a paycheck right now, or getting a lesser paycheck because of this.
I'll bring it back again to TMOS, and the reason that I brought it up wasn't to necessarily get into the political haggling of it, because I think we're all in the same boat. Like, let's just get something going, people. Let's get these people back to work. But when we listen to it on TMOS, I appreciate the perspective. I appreciate that even in these times, and this week on TMOS, shutdown, Breaking Bad finale. I mean, these are major incidents right now. And then you, of course, had the woman who drove and was shot to death out in front of the Capitol building this week. 2 weeks, within 2 weeks of a mass shooting down at the Navy Yard. These are situations that are happening in their area, and the guys are doing the show, and there's a certain portion of me that goes, that's what makes these guys professionals, because they keep doing the show. They keep talking about these issues. They keep talking about it from their perspective. It's an interesting perspective. It's an interesting back and forth that they have, and at the same time, with all this drama going down, they still bring something for me to laugh about, which is so necessary. And this week has been one of those weeks for me where I needed the laugh, and they were able to do that, and I really appreciated that fact.
I hear you. We've all been there.
Before I carry on, so just to remind everybody, if you want to call in on today's show, I highly encourage you to call in and give us a topic so that we can go down that road with you. The phone number is 646-716-5370. Hit the 1, and we'll get you on the air, and we'll talk about what's going on in TMOS. This is kind of just our roundtable this week. It's a radio guy's trick when he's lazy.
When he's having an O'Meara-style morning.
Correct. You just open the phone lines, and you just pray and hope that it'll fill your 4 hours of radio time. But anyway, let's take a quick break. When we get back, I want to talk about some of the things. I do have a couple of clips, and I want to bring up, actually, somebody being mentioned on TMOS. When we get back right here on OMearaCast.
Hey folks, it's your old buddy Rob Spiewak with a question. Do you miss the way radio used to be? Oh, it might take you a while to remember it, but there was a time when you actually used to listen to the radio for music. Well, thanks to more broadcasting, you still can, because each and every week I do the Rob Spiewak Show, 4 hours of boss radio that is fast, funny, and it is fun. Check it out, robradio.com, and don't forget the extra B. That stands for music. Rob Spiewak.
Welcome back to OMearaCast, and so this week, or the week before, because if you remember, in between our last discussion, I had a little interview with Mr. O'Meara, and we had a little talk, and which then, of course, led to you guys being mentioned on TMOS.
Fantastic. The Sarda train. Choo-choo.
He'll bring... Come on, ride the train and ride it. He'll bring his sidekicks. Steve Mermelstein.
Oh, really?
And Jason Coate.
Now, see, here's the number one
or
fan.
Cote.
He knows Steve Mermelstein.
Yeah.
Mermelstein and...
Well, it's more like...
I'll be coming along with you, Marcus, if I can get the time off.
The best marmalade in Vermont.
It is. It's made with fresh orange peel.
Marmalade and steam.
I haven't heard marmalade jokes since the 3rd grade.
Well, we're glad that the third grade humor of TMOS could bring it back for you. So did it bring back some like horror of your third grade?
No, I just remember, the silly jokes.
How did it make you feel, though? You are a huge fan of TMOS. You've been a
cool.
huge fan for a long time, and they're busting your balls.
I thought it was neat, and I played it for my friends, and people were mentioning it to me at work and stuff, because they heard it.
Now all of your workmates are going to be going, marmalade.
No, actually, no one has. No, it hasn't stuck.
Oh, it will. Oh, it will.
Somebody's going to make sure.
Because from now on, in the chat room, hey, what's up, marmalade? Yeah. Jason, you got mentioned, but you were passed over at the same time.
I believe the correct phrase here would be, Olay.
Are you saying you felt comfortable with the fact that your balls weren't busted?
I was probably comfortable with it. I've had my name on the show a time or two before with the birthdays and the history with the Bunny Ranch, so they usually take their opportunities then to bust chops. So there was a part of me that felt a little bit jealous because you two get the beating, so that makes you more of a celebrity than I am, and I'm just the afterthought. But hey, I'll take it. Some days you're happy just to get off scot-free.
I don't know. I don't know that I got off scot-free. I definitely
you never get off scot-free.
No. I was ridden hard and put up wet in a couple of different ways, but
and yet still unpaid.
Yeah, I've had
He's
much
the free hooker.
I've had much easier reviews, let me tell you, from my jobs. But what did you guys think of the interview with Mike?
I thought it was pretty good.
I liked it.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for your committal. I really appreciate that. Way to overcommit. That was all right. It's fine.
Well, I thought
thanks for doing it.
I thought you asked him some interesting questions. I thought you tried to keep it really brief, and he prattled on a bit, which was funny when he comes around to busting your chops for going past the half-hour mark that was set. Because pretty much that was because he took 25 minutes to answer the first question.
Oh, you mean this comment? Here's Mike's comment.
How do I describe this? Talking to Marcus is it's especially when it's in the format of doing his show. And no, it's the way he is privately too, because I've had private conversations with him. It's like you can say anything to the guy, and it's not going to. I don't know what it is.
I know what it is.
It's not going to hit home.
He is not an objective. It's like taking a subjective test or an objective test. With him, he's going to ask you a question, and you're going to answer it by filling in the dot. It's not an essay question with a follow-up because he's got exactly what he wants to cover.
He's got the top 10 questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Dave's top 10. Serta's top 10, right? That he's going to go to.
Right.
So you could go to question 3, and you're like, yeah, you know what? I just came back from the doctor's, like as you mentioned earlier. There's a spot on my liver, but we're hoping for the best. We're praying.
Right.
And then he goes straight to question 4.
That's right.
it.
No follow-up.
That's it.
So no follow-up. Were any of his cohorts with you yesterday?
No,
or was it
just me and Marcus talking. And when I would answer a question, I suddenly realized about 3 questions into it that I would answer a question, and I could have said, and by the way, I'm planning to jump out of an airplane without a parachute with a large explosive device attached to my back, and I'm not going to tell you what city it's going to be.
Right.
Okay. When the other guys left the show, was there, and it's just like, God, man, dude.
He's focused. You know what? Really what you're doing is you're paying a high compliment.
Yeah. Sure.
He's focused.
I must have listened to a different show.
I'll speak in your defense.
Did you hear that in the interview that I tried? How many times did you hear me attempt to get in?
A few. The bigger issue at heart is you might want to time mark this so you can clip it later. Keep your job. Keep your unpaying job. You have to go into it with a construct of doing an interview. You have X number of questions. You asked people for questions. Mike even mentioned on the air that you were asking for questions from the listeners on the fan page. So you're trying to do fan service and get to as many of the questions as you can to ask Mike. Now, when Mike answers a question with a 23-minute prepared response, it leaves you very little time for back and forth. Plus, very little topic left to cover the back and forth.
Tell me about it, because it started with the topic about the guys leaving.
Oh my God!
If you hear what I say, I said it wasn't a topic that I really wanted to get into. Because it wasn't a question that I wanted to go into. The last time that he and I spoke on a one-on-one during OMearaCast was before that time. But we had a conversation. He called into the show. We had a brief conversation on the show after that.
Right.
There was no real need, and I think that there's been enough time passed between that situation and now that we should be past the conspiracy theories. Or we should be past the situation. We should accept the situation as it is. So, for me, I was simply trying to say, this wasn't a topic that I really wanted to get into, and he brought it up.
Right.
But it seems like the fans still want to know about the situation between you and the guys and whether or not you're talking. And actually, the question that I had on my list, and yeah, I have a list because I've done interviews before, and I don't go unprepared. But on my list was just simply about him and RJ because he's brought up RJ recently on the show.
Right.
And the situation between RJ and TMOS, not the same as the situation between him and TMOS and Mark and TMOS and Buzz.
Right.
So I just was curious, and it had been brought up with the fans. And yes, you're right. I see myself kind of in that spot trying to represent the fans and what do they want, not just what I want.
Well, at the same time, also trying not to completely jam your head down the throat of the lion. That's right. You don't want to ask too many follow-up questions on a subject like that because it's the very nature, as expansive as the answer was, the very nature of the answer was guarded.
Mm-hmm.
There was not a lot of information. There was a lot of talking. There were a lot of words involved in the answer. But there wasn't a lot of here's specifically what's happened, or here's
I don't
what
think
our
we got
relationship
anything
is.
new outside
It was
I've spoken to them.
absolutely nothing new other than I've had a personal conversation with each of them recently, and RJ and I are talking about hanging out again.
Right.
Outside of that, there was about, no offense, Mike, but there was probably about 30 seconds of new content in 15 minutes of an answer. And if you try to extrapolate more or bore into that questioning, it probably doesn't go well from there.
I don't know why I would want to or need to unless I'm trying. And honestly, it was not a topic a road that I wanted to go down. There was plenty of other things for me to talk about, and also
it was taking over the whole interview.
What you guys don't hear so I get him on the phone. Mm-hmm. He's on the line right out of the gate. Hey, I only got 30 minutes, so let's get this thing rolling. Okay, fine. I'm literally on the phone with him for 10 seconds before I'm hitting record and going because he's already told me he's only got 30 minutes.
Yep.
So regardless of whatever agenda I have, I know that I have a short window to get it in.
Yeah.
And when
you got to stay on point.
I barely ask a question. It's not even a question I want to go down a road. And he fills half of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then
pretty much took up your window.
I can't get to the rest. And when, and again, I'm trying to do a service on both sides. Mm-hmm. I want to have a conversation. I do have follow-ups, but at the same time, I'm trying to get in some of these other questions. And I think this is the challenge of, I'm doing my show. It's my show. I'm the lead, but Mike is the star.
Oh, boy.
No. OMearaCast is mine.
Yes.
And I'm the interviewer. Mm-hmm. Mike is the star of TMOS. I get it.
Right.
He's also a 30-year vet of radio and does not like dead air. I get it. So he fills the time. When he's got 30 minutes, he's going to fill 30 minutes. So I think that the bit of a challenge is he and I are also doing this over the phone line, so he can't see my face. So that there's enough challenges, so he can't see the face that I'm making.
He can't see that your eyes have closed.
Rolled into the back of my head, going, "Dear God, aren't we done with this?" But and I love talking to the guys, I love getting information from them and with them. But I think that we also don't hang out. They don't hang out with me.
No.
I'm not close enough. He hangs out with Todd. He hangs out with these other people. So they understand the style. They understand their way. I'm not about the agenda. Honestly, and I'll tell you right now, for all of the OMearaCast fans, Monday evening, I am doing an interview with Matt Bloom. I am not going to come with any questions. no agenda. The first question on my mouth is going to be, so, how's things? Screw it, and we're just going to go from there.
Good luck. It's going to be, if anything, if this week taught us anything, there's going to be some dead air on that show.
I don't think, Matt. I don't know.
He was
We'll
probably.
see.
I'm sure he's distracted doing the stuff he's doing.
I'll find out more on Monday, but I'm looking forward to that interview, and I think that if you listen to the first interview with Mike, it was much more fluid. It ran much better, but Mike also wasn't as time constrained.
Right.
He always busts my chops for running over, but I'm not watching the clock. I'm going to go until these guys tell me to please stop.
Right. I mean,
because I'm trying to do us all a service and try to get them to share a little.
If I may follow that up, there's also, as you've discussed, outside, we'll give you a little bit of inside O'MearaCast. As you've discussed off mic, in the room, with the individuals who are here and with one of the individuals who's not here, Will.
Yes.
You pointed out to Steve before we did the episode that was Will and I with Steve. That Steve has to carve out a spot for himself because you have one guy with a big personality who's not afraid to talk, and another guy with a big personality who's not afraid to talk, and the two of them are going to start bouncing off each other.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you get your spots, you find your openings.
Work my way in.
It's the same thing with their show. Now, in all fairness, their show is Mike is that big, strong, center camera personality in their show.
Yeah.
Rob and Oscar know how to take a secondary role to him. And work with
but they've also worked with him long enough that they also know how to step into it. Versus Mike hasn't worked with me.
No.
So therefore, when I tried to, and I think you could probably hear it on the interview, there's a couple of times where I attempt to step in, and there's no way.
But more importantly, I guess my point here is the way Mike, I believe, looks at the show is as a branding point for him and as a soapbox. Especially in his interviews. It's an opportunity for him to flesh out his thoughts and his ideas when he's being interviewed. So he's got a lot to say, even on a short question, and he wants to represent things in a certain way and point the audience in a direction where he's thinking and help them understand where he's going.
Okay, hold on. That's a lot of words to call him a liar.
No, I'm not. Well,
what are you saying? Because right now
you're
suggesting that he's putting a PR spin on it in such a way to deceive us. That's what it
sounds
like.
I believe you and I both just, if I'm not mistaken, you and I both just said he took 15 minutes to give us 30 seconds of information that was new, and the rest of it was stuff we've all heard before. I'm not saying so much that he's lying as I'm saying he might have his dancing shoes on a little bit when answering the question, which is fair. That's fine. It's his prerogative.
That's assuming the dance is to dodge something. I don't necessarily.
I'm not saying it's to dodge something.
I'm not necessarily assuming that he's dodging anything. I just think that the situation that we talked about months ago is still the same situation today.
Yeah.
The fact that the topic got brought up again means that we're going to get the same information.
Right.
That's why I didn't want to ask the question.
Right.
That's why I didn't want to.
I agree with what you're saying. I don't think there was anything.
There's plenty of other things to talk about.
I don't,
because Mike and I talked right after the mass shooting at the Navy Yard.
Right.
I wanted to talk more about how he felt about living in that region, about his experience. What are people around him dealing with? Because he lives in Ground Zero.
Right.
And I wanted to talk about those kinds of things. I wanted to talk more about Catherine. Because I noticed, and he talked about it this week on the show, that it feels like, at least from the conversations that he's publicly putting on air, that he's interacting with Catherine more. And so I was really interested in the new dynamic of him and his college-age daughter.
Right.
Because I know for myself, my daughter's 23, she's moved out of the house. We have a new dynamic. We have a new relationship.
Oh, it's absolutely
so I was curious on those kinds of things, not, hey...
And I don't blame you.
What's up with the deal? Why did Buzz leave?
That probably makes for a better interview show for normal purposes. I think the problem that is going on there, and I'm not saying that he's tap dancing with you or that he's got something to hide. What I'm saying is, anyone who's a serious fan of the show knows that there's a group called the Fairfax Underground that sits and lives to just take their knives out and go to town on these guys. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think Mike is kind of sensitive about that stuff and has always shown that he's sensitive to that stuff. And I think when he's answering a question like that, those are the listeners he's thinking about. Those are the listeners who have their, to use the line from the O'Meara show, those are the listeners with their belts unbuckled and their beach towels out, because they're like, here we go, here's the stuff we want, here's the inside dirt, here's how we're going to hear about how he wanted to do this, or this happened, or these people are fighting because of this. And he's just, he gave the answer that has been the answer right along. Buzz wanted to go and do something else. Things didn't work out with Mark in terms of the business construct they had, and they moved forward. And everybody moved forward, and they're all doing their own thing now.
Yeah.
And there is competition in what they're doing, but, it's a big market. There's a big space out there. So
one can hope. I think that's the challenge. I think that's a challenge, and it's not. I think that's the challenge for TMOS, and it's not just Buzz and Mark. Matter of fact, I'll take them completely out of it. The whole podcast market. Go to iTunes and look up podcasts and try to find one. Mm-hmm. There are 20 that always pop up. Adam Carolla is always going to come to the top. Yep. Mark Marone's always going to come to the top. But
Aaron.
Whatever. I don't care.
It's your thing.
It's not my show. I promote TMOS.
I know.
Mike O'Meara. I can pronounce that.
How many days of practice did it take?
It took me a while. It was O'Meara for a long
O'Meara.
time. O'Meara. I couldn't tell. Is the O a long O, or is it more like soft O?
Hi, this is
O'Meara.
Jerry Serta. I'm here with Mike O'Meara.
But so I guess I enjoyed the conversation with Mike. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more if the show hadn't felt so heavy set from the get-go,
right,
dealing with a topic that I am over. Now, again, when I put up the topic on Facebook and said, hey, I'm going to be interviewing Mike, if you guys have questions, there were 4 or 5 people that said, this is what we want to know about. And I did say, even on that particular thread, it's not really a road I want to go down. But Mike saw it, Mike noticed it, and Mike brought it up, and so he went down that road.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe it would have been easier to bring up towards the tail end of your block of time, and then if he wanted to extrapolate and go into it in depth then, and go over time, that was his call. But I get what you're saying. He kind of brought it up to open, and I think it was on his agenda because he knew people
he was busting my balls for asking for questions online, as though I was going to be an unprepared interviewer. But no, again, as I said,
not unprepared as much as lazy.
Had nothing to do with that. I just want to make sure. I think that there are questions out there that fans want to know.
Right.
That.
No,
I have my own set of questions, and I think that there are other questions that could also be asked. And I loved Hugh's question; it was a great question. I love Sue's question that I was able to ask during the show. I wasn't going to ask him about his weight, but it was a question. I think it's a relevant question because we've heard the ups and downs. We know that he's preparing for the live show, so there are those little things.
Well, here's the thing. First off, let me just say, this is spiraling like his answer to that question. At this point, we're getting caught in the same thing. The only point I was trying to make, and not turn it into a drawn out debate and complication over what is intense or anything else, is I just think when Mike has interviewed or talked with you on the show, Mike is the star of the show, and that's fine. This is his business. The friggin' enterprise is named after him.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
That's his personality, and that's where he's coming from.
Absolutely.
When he talks about you on the air, and he talks about your interview style, and whatever else, there's also a certain amount of what has to come into that conversation is, well, Mike is climbed up into the cab of his steamroller and pulling on the horn and just rolling straight ahead as you ask him questions. Whereas when you were on with Oscar and Rob, there was a little more back and forth, and there was a little more opportunity for questions because they've learned that you can't always be the guy who the 35 minutes is all about you when they're in the room with Mike. It's a personality mix. So Mike is going to bring that to an interview, whereas those guys are, they make the same joke to an extent, but I don't know that they necessarily live behind it as much as Mike does.
I think the moment Mike heard that Marcus was asking online questions, that put him on the defense.
I was doomed.
Yeah,
I was doomed right then.
That got him in that mindset.
Yeah, but to be fair, what's the show?
Right.
It's a fan show.
I know.
It's supposed to involve the fans.
Exactly.
it's gravitated into this because the simplicity is, like you've talked about, it helps to have other people in the studio to bounce back and forth off of. You can't necessarily rely on it being caller driven as you check to see if there's anybody in the chat room.
Yeah, I've got 2 calls on the line, but they have
Marcus.
not indicated that they want to actually be on.
Marcus, you've forgotten the rule.
Which is what?
Add a
I'm
1
sorry.
to the front.
There's 50. No. I'm going to be honest because this is why. This is one of 5 reasons why Blog Talk Radio is going bye-bye.
Jow.
Yeah.
Hey, English accented bitch. Don't allow the podcast to hit you in the ass.
What's the numbers in the Ustream chat room?
Oh, 10,000.
He's learning.
We are winning.
We can now plot the Mermelstein bell curve.
10,003.
10,003. That might have been a tell.
No, that was accuracy, baby. That was accuracy.
I should probably start inviting you to poker night, Steve.
I'm a good poker player.
Yeah, sure, because there's nothing like a guy giving an answer while he giggles.
I would like to raise $5.03. I think there's 3 cents of skin in that bet.
Yeah. Well, again, I look forward to doing the interview on Monday with Matt. I will put that show out in the middle of the week. We will still do a show next week. Jason's looking at me like, does that mean I don't get to do another show? We'll do our show next week.
Dude, you're assuming I'm going to have the money to come. I'm going to have to hitch at this rate.
This is the most pathetic group of guys.
Is it not?
This is going to become the Marcus and Steve show.
Will was worried about it before, but Steve's going to be sitting here going, they're fucking loserdoms. Sorry. Couldn't help it. Let's write down that time, shall we? Their loserdom is going to rub off all over my career.
Yeah.
Believe me, I've crossed my mind.
He's already looking for new jobs.
I've been getting my resume ready.
It's working 5 jobs as we speak just to keep one.
Yeah, what does your boss think of this this Ustream thing you're doing on Saturdays?
He watched one of them that I know of, and he thought it was okay, So well, he wasn't his
glowing review.
It was okay.
Wasn't his interest. But,
oh man!
Too technical miss.
Well, okay. Speaking of technical, guess what? Someone did say that they wanted to come on the line, so we're going to go to area code 240. Hi, who's this? Hello, 240. Hi there, 240. 240 doesn't want to talk to me.
Hey, anyone who's inside the chat room, start talking out loud right now.
Nice.
Right now. Now's the moment.
Now's the time. All right. Well, thanks for sharing.
Like a bird whose life is about to change, your window's closing.
I don't know what's worse. I have dealt with working at the radio station. I have 2 types of calls that really get on my nerves. The first, I just put them on hold.
Oh, did you?
The first was when I get people like that who either butt dialed me or they call in and they just don't get the fact that I'm talking to them. Like,
that's a pretty talented butt dial.
Hello, are you there? And then the other one is the 14-year-old girl who calls in and she's like, I'm here with all my girlfriends. We're having a pajama party. Can you play Justin Bieber?
Oh, God.
Frickin' make me want to kill them.
It reminds you of the comedian who pointed out that women are the only species that answers "How are you doing?" by going.
So funny you said that because I watched that yesterday between 2 40-year-olds. Like really from across the park.
How did they learn that?
Jenny! Really? This is how we communicate? How do you put that in text?
I remember.
I don't know how you text that.
A couple weeks ago when I went to my friend's wedding, that was the same thing I did. Like when I finally saw her after the wedding and she's in her gown, I'm like, congratulations. I said, oh wait, I'm sorry. Let me try that again. Oh my God! I said, I believe that's the correct response. Right?
Something that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if you picked up on it this week.
I'm worried about what this is going to be.
No. So obviously, and I did did make the joke during the Mike interview, but it came up this week a little bit. Again, he's been visiting Catherine Moore.
Right.
Did you notice that there was a little bit of avoidance to the fact that it got brought up that she lives apparently on a co-ed floor, and there's a guy on the floor. But there was a lot of avoidance, it felt like, from anyone wanting to openly admit on an open microphone that maybe she's being friendly with some boy. That she might be...
Is that what the kids are calling it now?
That she might be having biblical relations with another fella.
Oh, that's what the kids are calling it.
I don't know. What do they call it these days?
Knowing you in a biblical fashion.
You know, did you notice that there was that kind of avoidance during the show this week when they were talking about it?
What father really enjoys that conversation?
You know, I got to the point where I just had to embrace it.
Well,
Because I got a daughter who's already...
Obviously, but...
I have a grandson. You know, what am I supposed to do?
I realize, but do you spend a lot of time talking about your daughter's sexual proclivities?
No.
Okay. Then.
No, but I do remind her all the time to, make sure he's wrapping it.
Would you prefer...
It's really great to see you make sure he wraps
Let's go from the other direction. Would you prefer to talk about your parents' sexual proclivities?
it. You know what? I've gotten to the point now, and I don't know, maybe it's my age or maybe it's just me, where I honestly just giggle my ass off about that stuff.
Well, yes. But
I mean, everybody's doing it. If nothing else, I laugh because you people get so freaking weirded out. Like if I mentioned right now, because see, what would happen if I said something, your brain will automatically create the image. So, of your father backing up your mother.
Backing up my mother.
Nice choice of words. You automatically create this disgusting image in your head, and you start... See, you're already sweating.
I've never had...
You already have the beads of sweat coming off thinking about it.
Well, that's just because I'm fat. I've never had...
Because your dad...
I've never had
Your dad's
the
at
visual...
home right now.
No,
after he wrote that check, he's at home right now with Mom. Just kind of going to town and, showing her how much he loves her after all these years. And, that's something you have to live with because that's how you came into this
I'm
world.
well aware.
In the back of a Chevy.
Dude, I came home from work one day to get the audio experience. Okay?
Wait, hold on. Wait a minute. You went home to get the audio experience?
No, I didn't go home to
You just
get
said
it.
that.
I said I came home from
like you wanted
work
to
one
listen
day
to your parents?
and got the audio experience.
Okay.
Because they apparently were not aware what shift I was working. This is when I was younger and working retail. And come home to and they're not around. And I come around the corner and the bedroom door is closed. And just before I reach to knock on the door, I hear noises. And they were right on I know you're enjoying this, so I'm going to keep running with it. What's this? So in the middle of this, I hear sounds.
Yeah.
And the problem is this. The initial sound that's coming out of the room is not suggestive of one possibility. There are two possibilities. There is what we are discussing. And there's the potential that my father has thrown his back out. And my mother is possibly rubbing his back. So I hear that and I pause. And then there's follow-up, and that's when I go, oh, God, and just turn on my heel and go across the hall into my bedroom.
But why?
Now, here's what's...
When your dad finally comes out of the bedroom,
oh, wait,
you just high-five him?
You got to hear the rest of the story. So I go across the hall and sit in my bedroom quietly with, the television on and the door closed so I don't have to overfocus. Which it's like, whatever. It's like, okay, fine. It's just going to be uncomfortable for everyone involved if I go knock on the door or make my presence known. Now,
you don't just get the...
Now, at this time, my sister is a freshman in college.
Uh-huh.
And she's gone to the University of Maine.
Did you send her in?
No. Nice. She's at the University of Maine.
Hey, sis, I left something in Dad's room. Can you go get it for me?
Listen, just let the magic happen on this, okay?
The magic happened.
She's at the
University.
University.
That's right.
That's right. She's at the University. Might have been my mommy. She's at the University of Maine, and she would call every day to talk to them because she was really homesick. And so I'm in the room, and the phone rings. And it's about that time. It's like 6 o'clock, and I'm like, gee, I've never gotten off of bed that fast in my life. I just, like, basically sprung from lying to standing in half a second. Snap up the phone, because I don't want them, like, answering the phone. I'm like, hello, and I start talking to her, and she's like, oh, hey, what's going on? And, brief small talk between a brother and sister who don't have that great a relationship at that time.
Uh-huh.
And naturally it leads to where it's going, where it's like, so are mom and dad home? And me, like an idiot, incapable of lying on the spot because I'm slightly traumatized and flustered at this moment in time, go, yeah, they're home. And she's like, can I talk to them? No. Well, why not? Because you can't. But I want to talk to them. It's not a good time. Why? Brooke, let it go. She's like, what? I'm like, let it go. She's like, no, why can't I talk to them? I'm like, Brooke, figure it out and let it go until a later time. I'll call you back. And it's at this moment that my father bursts into my bedroom in his Y-fronts, like Walter White in the first episode of Breaking Bad, red and sweaty, like, is that Brooke eyes wide? Like, and I just have this moment of turning and looking and just being like, yes, in the phone and just wanting to be out of the environment completely at that moment. And he takes the call, and I'm like, it's nice to know where things rank. The first child goes, I'm going to back away slowly now because I don't want to interrupt this or be involved. The second child is the one that coital interruption is done for. Oh, we'll stop what we're doing to answer the phone for the nightly phone call.
Just note that in there was no mention of hand washing. So,
well,
Dad's
I mean, they
grabbing
did
the
have
phone.
an attached bathroom. It was a master bath, so possibly.
Well, you never know. Well, I'm glad that you weren't scarred too badly. Or how's therapy going?
Well,
I should ask.
you have to be able to laugh about stuff like that. It's just reality, like you said. That's how else did I get here?
Everybody else is doing it. I mean, it's
Would
so
it
funny
not be
because
more disturbing to think they'd be in a sexless marriage for 40 years?
Well, Rob makes that joke all the time, but I have a feeling.
Rob makes that joke all the time, but we've all seen the Skype footage. We've all seen that screen cap that was on a bonus show that we didn't need to see. A sweaty, flustered, shirtless Rob Speedway. Little red.
What? Wait a minute. I don't think I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I really talk about
Okay, I'm not even going to search this out because that's an image I don't necessarily want.
I wouldn't even have to search long. I've got it saved to whatever bonus show.
Look, all the jokes he can make, it doesn't matter because I've seen the two of them in person, and they are so lovey-dovey on each other that I'm sure that they are very amorous together.
Well, we know it's all radio,
but
performance.
But I wanted to have that conversation with Mike because obviously your relationship changes, and he had to deal with not too long ago the reality that his daughter was drinking. Now she's at college. What did we all do? Even when the law was you couldn't drink when you were 21. We drank. By the way, we also did a lot of other things.
I think most parents try to avoid thinking about it.
You're also assuming that this hasn't come up previously.
That what hasn't?
Not to cast some aspersion on anyone, but I mean...
Oh, you mean like during high school?
That there hasn't already been a history of sexual activity. It's his kid. It's his daughter, more importantly. And
no.
He's going to have a certain level of separation.
I understand. But this is the first time that I recall in listening to all the episodes and listening to the show previous to that there was any mention of this kind of thing. Now, they've kind of joked, but this was a real moment where Mike was somewhat confronted with boy-girl close proximity and having to deal with that. In all these years, Catherine hasn't lived with Mike full-time. So it might not be a situation that he has necessarily had to deal with. It might be on the back of his mind because Catherine's obviously had boyfriends along the way. But it hasn't come up on the show. It just felt like this week
it hasn't come up on the show.
I could swear there was talk, the Mike meeting a boyfriend once.
No, there was talk about Mike meeting a boyfriend, but I felt a bit of... There just felt like there was this moment of uncomfortableness, and none of the guys really kind of leapt on it.
Because in the past, when Oscar has made any sort of slightly off-center comment about his daughter's appearance or anything while hanging out with them, that's when he gets all angry. He gets up and like, those are my daughters. You know those are my daughters, you little Bolivian jerk. And it's like, and that's very clearly a line that we do not cross on the Mike O'Meara show. So.
No, I get it. And it's fun. It's a funny common joke, and I get why it's being said. All right, listen, let's take a break.
You just like to dig as deep as possible. Like a mosquito with a jackhammer.
You got that right. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the bonus show this week. We do have a couple of calls in, and we'll see if anybody actually wants to talk to us. We'll see what happens when we get back right here on O'MearaCast.
Do you love your iPhone? Do you love your iPad? Do you love your Android? Do you love your Nexus 7? Did you play Atari? Did you program the TRS-80? Do you love technology? We all do. And more importantly, do you love entertainment? Yes. And if you do all those and above, or whatever I'm trying to say, you should listen to Tech 411. That's right, Tech 411 show with Oscar Santana and Todd Moore. Bring it. Let's try it. That was fair.
More Broadcasting. For more information, visit us at morebroadcasting.com.
Welcome back to O'MearaCast, and, thank you, Jason, for coming out. Steve, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We're done. We're out of here.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Because you know what? We had a fantastic bonus show for fat guys.
Yes, we did.
This is where you guys take a different angle.
It's the
at way
fat.
you-
It's a fat guy phenomenon.
At
The
the-
combination of foods.
At the way,
We're
the way you
passionate
live.
about it.
So if
The way you
Burger King or
Burger King.
or Burger King,
Burger King.
or,
Holly says, "Fuck you, Oscar."
Holly says,
or McDonald's
cholesterol.
offer something that just blows our mind, we will run out and get it.
Right.
Okay.
There's no chance that
You're bringing anything into your home?
we decide that this would probably go well with this, or there's not enough of this.
They
so we're
don't
gonna
take
add
it to the
this.
next level because they're not fat guys.
Yeah. Here's the thing. So
Do you have any
like,
other weird combos that you do?
as
I have
far
one
as
that drives Carrie crazy.
sugary combos?
Sometimes sugar and sometimes savory together.
Okay.
One that drives Carrie crazy is I'll sprinkle Junior Mints on popcorn.
I've heard
In
that
the
before.
movie
I've
theater?
heard that before.
I don't think
Great. Oh, it's good.
Savory and sweet.
Yeah.
Junior Mints on popcorn?
Yeah. And as they said in the show Seinfeld, they're very refreshing.
All right, before we get going down this particular road, because we can fill a whole day
Yes, we
talking about this, we have a call on the line. So let's go to area 240. Hi, who's this?
This is Mary, your loyal listener.
Oh, Mary. Mary's got some inside information, people. Let's see what Mary...
That was creepy.
That is creepy because I'm hoping that Mary will give up some information. So, Mary, what's been happening with you lately?
You know, not a whole lot. I'm moving down to Rob's favorite territory by VCU. Also, I'm going to O'MearaCast, and I heard this rumor that somebody was looking for a date.
Yes. I believe Matt Bloom is on the prowl looking for a date for O'MearaCon. Or are we talking
I don't know
about...
if he's on the prowl. Because prowl would
Ponies
mean
don't
that he would
prowl.
actually pounce on something.
He's
that's
on
true.
the canter.
He's on the canter. He's standing by. So, have you reached out to Matt?
You know, I threw my hat in the ring because I heard free drinks. And so I immediately found him on Facebook and sent him a message.
And what did he say?
I was rejected.
Okay, when you say rejected, how exactly did you reject it? Did you just go, yeah, no? Or did he actually have a full response for you?
It was a very nice rejection, a very gentlemanly rejection, if you will. I told him that, so I am 35, I'm not blonde, I'm not a manatee, I already have a ticket, so they don't have to, they can still sell one. And that I'm a nice person.
Yeah.
I'll be cosplaying. I'll be in a costume if you like that sort of thing.
No, me
And he said,
Wait.
yeah,
What are you
great.
dressing
I've been
as?
planning this costume for like a month now. It's going to be awesome.
Okay, you just got Steve's
Steve
panties
woke
in
up.
a wad. Steve wants to know what you're going to be dressing up as.
I will be doing the very cute girl version of the 10th Doctor, the superhero of all superheroes, the Doctor.
Oh. Everybody on Ustream, this is my O face. Oh. Okay, sorry.
Steve, do you have any steel wool for my eyes?
That's what I was hoping to have happen when I show up.
Wow, the 10th Doctor. Meow. Okay, well, so you've got your ticket. You're already playing the part. You are ready to go, and Matt says what?
that's really cool. I'll be looking for. I hope you bring the TARDIS with you.
That was his out. So he didn't bluntly say, "Yeah, I'm not going with you." He just kind of said, "I'll see you there."
May I paraphrase?
Complete passive avoidance.
Wow.
May I paraphrase his response?
Yeah, go ahead.
But
Boogity,
you know, the
boogity,
thing,
boogity,
okay, I don't
boogity,
mind because
poop.
I don't even know the guy, and it is all a bit anyway. I thought what was going on was that he was going to pick up Oscar's old mantle of bringing a rando to everything. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be cool? I want to be a rando sometime.
Well,
And, because Oscar can't do that anymore. He's got Shannon now.
that is true. That is true. Matt would be the perfect target for that. Josh has got his girl. All the boys got theirs. So, yeah. But lately on the show, it sounds like Matt has made it sound like he has had a difficult time getting offers. And the only offer I remember hearing was the woman in Texas. And now I'm finding out that Mary's put out an offer, a very sexy offer, and has been
I like free drinks.
I like free drinks, and I'm coming as a hot sci-fi character.
You can play with my scarf.
Wrong, doctor.
Yeah,
I'm
and
well
here's
aware.
the thing that, okay, so that's cool. If you're passing, maybe you found somebody, because I've been moving and doing a lot of traveling right now. I was a little behind on my OMearaCast shows.
I smell
Because
call-in
of that,
during the Monday interview.
I put in my information a little late, and I thought, oh, maybe he's already found somebody now. But then the following day, the day after my rejection, they asked him about it, and he says, no, nobody's contacted me. The only girl was a catfish.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the last time I checked, I wasn't a catfish.
You did say you weren't a manatee.
I mean, everybody on TMOS knows who I am.
No, I know.
Okay,
I was
so
gonna say, Mary, you're not a rando. You're Mary.
You know what I think we need to do? I think we need Mary to not work through Matt. I think, Mary, you should contact either Oscar or Rob directly and say, hey, I don't know what Matt is talking about. If he thinks I'm a catfish, can you please alert him to the fact that I am a real woman?
I might also suggest that if Mary has...
because actually, Rob, I know Oscar remembers me, but Rob certainly does. He always brings up the fact that I used to not like him, and now I heart him.
I would say if Mary has the time...
So he knows who I am. He knows I'm real.
Well, Mary, I know that Rob also listens to this show on a regular basis, so I'm sure he's listened to your episode.
Probably.
So he's well familiar with your mic technique, which is unforgettable.
Yes, especially the one from the ride for the Warriors.
Absolutely. It was fantastic. So I think the best bet is you got to come at it from a different angle, because you are a good catch for Matt Bloom. I think that maybe Matt misunderstood.
We're back to catfishing.
Well, I think that, again, Matt didn't really give that type of yes or no type answer. It was kind of deflective. And I don't know where that comes from exactly. But then again, I am talking to him on Monday, so maybe I'll have to ask him.
I think Mary should be calling on Monday during the interview.
Stir the pot a little.
There's
That's what I'm
radio
doing. I'm
gold.
just stirring up TMOS drama.
You know, that would be radio gold if I
Absolutely.
Skyped her in during the interview.
Absolutely.
Matt, do you remember, have you ever heard this voice? Meet Mary. She's a young, voluptuous woman looking for love in all the wrong places and trying to find a wonderful date for OMearaCon 2013.
You should play her in with the Won't You Be My Pony Boy
Love
music.
in all the wrong places, evidently.
You know, but look at the whole situation as a whole. I mean, they tried to hook up Todd. That didn't work out very well. They're trying to hook up Matt. It doesn't sound like that's working out very well. I really think that matchmaking is not TMOS's style. Mm-hmm. Apparently, matchmaking only worked during the D&M days, and it only worked for one guy, and he's sitting across from me right now, and they paid for it. So,
Well, they didn't, but I believe that was on Dennis.
Yeah.
Are we sure that Matt wants to be fixed up by the show and just doesn't know how to say that he doesn't really want to go down this road?
Sounds
with
like
them?
that. to
it's a
me.
question I will have to ask on Monday for Matt and try to see if I can't get to the bottom of it. But, Mary, thank you for calling in and letting us know and telling us about this.
He
because
might just be holding out for Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
good
And
luck.
he's already
Aren't
said
we all?
that he doesn't think the demographics fit what he wants.
It's because he's filled out the T-shirt orders.
Well, no, I mean, I get where Matt was Now, see, the difference here is I did not know Mary's story until today.
Right.
So when he said that, I totally agree. Typically, for TMOS, most of the fans are going to be guys. There's the contingency of female listeners, I think, is relatively small.
Oh, I bet
20%?
I bet you he's had some responses. I wouldn't be surprised if he's had at least 10 or 15 that he's all turned down.
Well, let me ask you this, Mary. Well, since you're on the phone, you're willing to jump in with both feet, try to hook up with Matt. Well, I don't know about hooking up, but going to OMearaCon with
Try to
Matt.
get a drink off of Matt.
Would you like to date Matt? Mary? Okay, apparently she's listening offline at the moment. But the reason I ask
At
because
a truck stop.
I live in Vermont. When does that ever happen? When you get fire trucks going by? By the way, nobody can hear it right now. Thanks for bringing it up.
Well, I thought I was getting it through the headphones, not through the background.
Anyway, so back to what we were talking about. So it's interesting the fact that Matt made the claim and that he hadn't heard any responses yet, apparently, according to Mary, unless Matt thought that she was the catfish. I will have to find out on Monday.
Or
I
Matt
am
thought
now.
she was a man. And that's not a shot at Mary. Please, Mary, understand that wasn't a shot at you.
Wow.
I'm just saying, well, if he thought she was a catfish, what evidence does he
Because
have that she's a
Jason,
catfish?
I honestly, Mary's quite a catch.
I'm not saying she isn't.
I mean, have you checked her out online? Have you checked out her resume? She's employed. You could call her up
Touche.
and say, "Hi, you want to go to OMearaCon with me?" You could try. Good luck.
Hi, I'm looking for a sugar mama.
Steve, you too, man.
Yeah,
I'm
now the
dating
worm
someone.
turns, doesn't it?
Okay, hold on. So let's get this clear, because the last time we spoke, you were dating, yet you were still available.
It was casual.
Are you no longer available?
No, I'm still, playing the field.
There's still a pair of Dockers.
Jesus, that's the same line I use in my marriage. That works really well.
There's still a pair of Dockers and a polo shirt on Friday.
Nice. All right, so, since we're on this topic,
Yes.
what are your thoughts about taking a date to OMearaCon? Would you like to have a date for OMearaCon, and preferably not me?
Definitely not me.
Well, I probably...
Definitely not Steve. Steve's not your type.
And I'm not a bottom, so probably not you either, based on the way you usually
Look,
talk in
you
the
and
studio.
Will are going to be the guys who hang out together. You guys are bonded at the hips. Why don't we see if we can't do better than Matt Bloom and get you a date?
You are so
for
confused
OMearaCon?
because first of all, you realize you're setting up a tremendous amount
Of disappointment?
I was going to say you're setting up a tremendous amount of disappointment in the woman if I don't show up, but also if I do show up. And it might not be a tremendous amount of disappointment if I don't show up.
Look, I think, and we'll talk about this off air, but I think you'll be there.
I hope to be there.
Okay.
Well, it's entirely possible I'll be homeless, so I'm not going to have anything on the schedule.
Well, if you're homeless, then it really doesn't matter. You can go anywhere.
That's right.
You're portable.
That's right. You'll just have me right on top of the van.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen refrigerator boxes. They fold up. We can put it in the trunk. It's no problem.
You don't even have to give me a room.
Matter of fact, when we get down there, because we're going to get down there the night before, we could just put his box in front of the State Theater.
That's what I was
That way
saying.
he's at the front of the line.
I was going to say you're missing the opportunity here. There's no need for a hotel room if you bring the box.
I'm not sleeping in a box.
No, I'm saying for me, but okay.
I mean, I
See,
like
this
boxes.
is why I'm saying I'm not a bottom, because he just presumed he was sleeping in the box with me. And by the way,
No, I was thinking about something completely
Will and
different.
I are attached to the hip.
Look at me, man.
Like, as if he's not going to be around you as much as possible, especially if there's an open microphone.
That's...
Love you, Will.
Hey, Will, how you doing, pal? Will's going to come down. We're going to have a blast.
Yes.
I think Will was a little disappointed, going back to an earlier clip that I played, that
Yes.
he was not mentioned. That Jason got a mention, Steve got a mention, but he wasn't mentioned.
Well, you know,
And
the
that was
difference-
only because Will hasn't been here enough.
Is that the phrase you're going to use? I thought it was going to be more along the lines of, it's more like these two guys are the fat barnacles attached to my furniture.
It's only because Will is so forgettable. No, I'm kidding.
Long distance relationships are hard.
They are. In all the wrong ways. Let's get to the food. Because did you listen to the bonus show this week?
Yes, I did.
All right. It was a fat man's
Yes, it
dream,
was.
it not? That was over an hour of food talk that just made the mouth water, and oh God. And Oscar doesn't get it. He's so clueless.
Yeah, well, you know, Oscar doesn't really.
Now,
live.
I don't get the whole junior mints on popcorn thing, though.
You know, there was a part of me that goes, maybe I'll try it sometime, but mostly I'm not interested. But at the same time, I was thinking about it while we were sitting here when you first played the clip, and is it that far off from caramel corn, really?
I'll tell you what.
Milk duds.
This past week,
In
I went down to New York City, and I watched a barbecue competition with some of the best barbecue in the country competing at this invitation tournament. And they also had a couple other guys there. And they had a guy there from Los Angeles, and I can't remember the chef's name right now. But he didn't do any barbecue there. He was doing beignets, and he was doing his caramel corn. It was a ghost pepper caramel corn.
Ooh.
Now,
Interesting.
let's take this to a whole nother level, and I'll have to paint this picture for you. So he served it in a cone.
You should probably take a moment to explain ghost pepper to the audience, because that's not, outside of foodies, that's not necessarily well known.
Well, if you're unfamiliar with the ghost pepper, let's just say it's
You
one of
don't
the
wanna know.
hottest peppers known to man.
I mean, they say a jalapeno is what, like 10 units, and this is 1,000?
Something like
like
that. I mean,
that.
it's huge. I don't remember the actual Scoville units right off
Yeah.
the top of my head, but it is
Scoville,
extremely hot. If you ate one, if you tried to pop one in your mouth, you'd be done for a week. I mean, eating anything and tasting anything for
that's
a
what they
week.
say.
It is so hot. But what he did was, so he took the ghost pepper and kind of laced the caramel corn. But what he did is he took the caramel corn, this caramel corn mixture, over dry ice and stirred it over the dry ice until the caramel corn was frozen. So you ended up with this cone full of frozen caramel corn with just the right amount of ghost pepper on it. So it was cold and hot all at the same time. It was fantastic. I'm a fat guy. I'm a foodie. I can imagine it. That is not something Oscar would have picked up on. That's not a
Oh, he would have
combination.
picked up on it.
It's not a combination that Oscar would have thought through.
He would
You
have
know?
picked up on it.
Well, Rob made the perfect analogy when he mentioned about ice cream.
Right.
Do you go and buy the cookies and cream, or do you think about having cookies and ice cream?
Oscar would have picked up on it based on his favorite character from Breaking Bad.
Okay, since I don't watch the show, you'll just have to mention it. What?
Jesse, that was the whole thing in the first season with Jesse. He's like, yo, I cook with chili pea. That's my signature, bitch. And so he would have been right on board.
So basically, we're talking about a whole different type of cooking here.
Yeah,
I
slightly
see.
different.
All right.
Still involves ice.
Well, you know, it was a great segment from the aspect of, I think, the psychology. And it was interesting that the guys got into this bit of psychology between the way normal people think about food and fat guys think about food.
The real key is when they can give you the relatables. And when Rob starts playing the game of Have You Ever with Mike, with ice cream, that's when people at home are going, yes, no, Yes, no, and laughing along with the show because there's some. I've absolutely put chocolate chips in vanilla ice cream before.
Let's play the game.
I
Go
did
ahead.
that last night.
All right, give me a combination. Have you ever?
Oh boy.
I put them on the spot.
You put me on the spot, and that's never works out well.
Let's go to Rob's cookies and ice cream. You know what I've done once is Hannaford's does the little 6-pack of large cookies, like the 4-inch diameter chocolate
absolutely.
chip. I've taken 2 of those and layered vanilla ice cream in between and made a homemade ice cream sandwich. That was phenomenal.
Oh, you know what? And I'll take that a step further. I have thought about that. I have done that myself and scooped ice cream on and gone, what a pain in the butt. It's a lot easier to buy the damn things. But you know what I discovered
Fatness
recently?
next to laziness.
Now, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
Listen up, fat guys. Here's the trick. Go buy your favorite Ben & Jerry's flavor. Or whatever flavor
cut the
comes.
tub.
Absolutely. You buy it in a pint size because it comes in a perfect cylinder.
I don't know
and
if
you
the viewers just saw what happened there, but that was one fat man immediately getting on the same rhythm as the other fat man without ever having done it.
Bingo. All you got to do is take it, you freeze it, and you just cut the canister into nice little 1-inch slices,
Right.
and then you can pull them out and you put them between the cookies. A nice 4-inch cookie, and it's a perfect amount of ice cream for an ice cream cookie sandwich. Oh my God, that's so good.
Would you like a moment?
Yeah, just
This is right up there with the 10 stuff.
Shut up. I'm taking it in. Taking it in now. A little chunky monkey and a little oatmeal cookie. Oh yeah. Oh. Sorry. Okay,
So we gotta try the vanilla caramel fudge.
have you ever actually taken your chocolate and dipped it into your peanut butter and scooped it like it was a spoon?
I think I've tried it and generally was not impressed. I do like the peanut butter cup, but I think they've figured out something there, probably with all the chemicals.
You like the chemical reaction.
The sodium. There's a lot more sodium.
Yeah, there's a lot of sodium in that.
I'll ask you the question that came up on the show.
It's the texture of the peanut butter.
You guys like chocolate, right?
It's okay.
it's okay.
I'm not a huge chocolate guy.
Frozen?
Yeah.
I prefer my chocolate frozen.
Peanut butter,
I love
peanut butter cup from the
It
refrigerator is
changes
awesome.
it, and usually, like, especially if it's a milk chocolate, makes the fat, move to the outside of the chocolate. It changes the makeup of it.
Milk chocolate is for wussies.
The only thing I put in the freezer,
Yeah.
Charleston Chew.
Oh my God! But those are designed for the freezer.
Absolutely.
That's what they're for. I mean, I wouldn't eat a Charleston Chew right off the rack. It's got to go in the freezer.
Yeah, much better.
But I eat chocolate bars. I get really good chocolate bars, dark chocolate, and I'll put it in the freezer and I'll eat that way. But Mike mentioned it. One of my favorite things, and I'm not a fan of cheap candies. I love Reese's peanut butter cups frozen.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I've ever done them frozen, but from the refrigerator, absolutely. That's when if I buy like a 6-pack of the regular ones.
Oh,
that's
freeze it so you get
they
that.
go right into the refrigerator.
So you get that little bit of crack in there. Oh,
you still
so
get that with the refrigerator.
Hey, the refrigerator. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, any comment? Did you come up with any?
Your food
combinations?
porn is wrong. My food porn is right.
I love.
That's right.
I like taking like Lake Champlain milk chocolate, melting it, pouring it on top of Panera cookies, and doing like what you said, slice the Ben & Jerry's.
Yeah,
make.
yeah.
So I have like a chocolate covered cookie with the ice cream, and then another chocolate covered cookie.
The combined age of this room is what, about 100? And I think our ceiling's probably 132.
Yeah, you're asking about our age. I don't understand. It's
I'm
our
saying
weight
combined,
that's our
no,
problem.
I'm saying our combined age right now is probably about 100 or so, give or take, maybe a little higher.
Yeah.
You're what, 41, 42?
Just shut up.
I'm 37. Steve's in his 30s, I presume.
38.
I got to think at best we've got 15 years collectively amongst us with these stories.
Oh my God, the food that we could go down. But
The good news is your heart will last longer to get to the hospital because of all the cold ice cream and chocolate products inside of it.
I just did this whole foodie adventure. I went on a business trip down to New York, but at the same time hit a bunch of food places simultaneously because that's what I do when I travel.
Okay, Mr. Zimmern.
Exactly. Went down to a place called 4 and 20 Blackbirds in Brooklyn for pie. Okay?
That is a very hipster name.
Because
Yes.
I like pie. All kinds of pie. And they had salted honey pie. it was delicious, and it was just enough salt it wasn't overly salty, but it was just enough to kind of kick it up a bit. The other thing I had was their lemon wintergreen pie. So it was a sour lemon pie, really great custard, but the wintergreen you did not taste until late on the palate, and then you had this bit of coolness, but it was really about tasting kind of that organic green in your mouth late in that flavor. Again, this is a fat guy talking about food. Oscar would go, yeah, I had a burger.
Yeah.
That was good. I had some fries. I had a shake.
Now, let's be more accurate. I had a Big Mac.
I had a Big Mac.
I had a Big Mac, and it was good.
Yeah. But
so good.
But I do think, I totally get where Rob was coming from. I think about combinations. I think about different types of food that I can put together all the time.
As demonstrated on the show when you've talked about I think the key, much like Rob, you're like, I think the key is McDonald's blanches them and then they fry them, and that's why I prefer theirs to Burger King.
Burger King
a lot of thought has gone into. Well, now they've got the new ones there. I don't think either one has powder on it. The Satisfries, they were talking about it on the show.
I missed it somehow.
So they've got a crinkle cut fry now.
Oh, right, yes. Okay.
And then they've gone back to like their old standard French fry that's more like the McDonald's fry in terms of shape and whatever.
If I wanted a crinkle fry, I'd get those Ore-Ida things, and they taste awful.
They're not that bad. They're okay.
Have you ever taken fries now, before this whole fry burger thing, did you ever take your fries and put them on your burger?
No.
Did you ever put potato chips on a burger?
Not on a burger, on a sandwich.
Now, I'm asking these questions only because of the fact that I have done it.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Fried onion rings.
Yeah, I've put onion rings
of course.
on it.
I've done that.
But you haven't put potato chips on it.
I've never done potato chips on a burger, no.
I used to love dipping French fries into my milkshake.
Okay, now you're a freak.
But I was also,
I know people that do that, but that's just...
No, you also realize where you are in the country, right?
Yeah.
So you know what else is done up here, periodically. Not that
much.
often.
Not much.
Mayonnaise with fries.
Mayonnaise and the vinegar thing.
Garlic aioli.
Well, the vinegar thing is more
I love garlic
The
aioli.
vinegar thing is more New England. The mayonnaise is French. That's French-Canadian.
I don't mind mayo, but I'd rather have it turned into an aioli and do a garlic aioli or a miso or something else.
Yeah, I've had that, the fresh made fries with the aioli over at the Bearded Frog.
Oh, matter of fact, when I was down in New York and I was walking down one of the streets, I saw a food truck and that's all they did were fries. So I picked up some Belgian fries with some horseradish aioli. It was fantastic. It was great. It was greasy. It was grimy, and
it was probably about $4.
And I forgot my napkin, so I was just like wiping it on the jeans. There we go.
I like it was a process of trying to I guess the gene. Right. Yeah, there was that much delay in processing going on. I'm pretty sure it was mostly along the lines of going down the street. All one process, just one motion: fry to mouth to shirt.
I don't have that problem. You may have that problem. I don't. I can get the food in the mouth.
Can we use this to bring up one of my favorite revelations of all time? And it was particularly entertaining to me because I work in the field and I've seen them. Was the revelation that RJ had made the travel bib out of a radiology shield.
Really?
You don't remember that?
No.
Oh, it was the greatest moment ever. I didn't stop laughing for 2 days. I was sharing it with my coworkers. Like, he was so proud of himself because that was his big... This was back when I think he and Rob were trying to get on America's Biggest Loser or whatever. And they were talking about their like food shame and stuff like that. And he was admitting that he was enough of a drive-through guy while driving. That Mike had brought up, the real tell with a fat guy is, do you insist on eating while driving? Is it part of your trip? Is it a way you rejuvenate yourself when you're tired? Things like that.
I'll be doing that on the way to work today.
I'm pretty sure we'll be doing it every 35 minutes on the way to Washington.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna have gerbil rigs set up around the van. Just so we don't even have to move. We just lean and take from the feeder bar. Once again, you're going through your goodie drawer. So he can't even make it through the podcast without the snacking.
No, because I was trying to find my Five Guys gift card.
Oh,
make sure I have it.
Make sure it's ready to go and load it up.
I don't want to forget it.
He had admitted that he took one of the shields. I think he said he took the lead out of it, which would make sense because they're not that heavy. But why would you want the weight? You just want
20
the bib.
20 pounds of bib.
Well, it's
That's
not,
great.
no, it's not even that much. Probably it's not even 5 pounds, but it's it's heavier, and it would be pulling on his neck. Now, here's what I want to know: is it a standard traditional lap belt where it's a square with a Velcro strap that's designed to go around the waist? So was he either laying it on his chest, putting the Velcro loop around his neck, or this is what I hope for? They make a lot of them now with the plastic pull rings that you just pull it apart and let it go around the person.
Yeah.
So I like to picture it with just the rings, because that's even lazier, because you can just go boom and lift it over his head and let it hang. It is. Don't misunderstand me. I laugh at it because of the imagery, and I also have a certain level of appreciation for pure, unchecked genius that's involved in that decision.
Because you, as a radiologist, should have done it yourself.
Well, I wasn't a radiologist. I'm a radiology tech, but yeah, it's it's a pretty because I've had the experience. I've driven into work before, knowing like I was going to make myself a fresh breakfast sandwich at home, make actually fry the eggs and put them on a bagel,
I do that too.
and it might drip some of the olive oil or whatever on my scrub top.
Oh,
So
just
I
out of-
drive
just
in.
an accident.
I drive
Whoops.
I drive into work in whatever T-shirt I was going to wear under the scrub top, with my scrub top folded on the seat next to me, and then when I get to work, put on the scrub top and go in and clock in.
That's a fat guy who
That's
comes
a fat man.
clothing prepared.
That is a fat guy. No, because what's worse? Is it worse to be the fat guy that does that, or is it worse to be the fat guy that ends up with the grease stains all over the front of his shirt at work
Hey,
as a medical professional?
I went down to a barbecue competition in New York
This should be
City,
good.
and I said I had taken particular shirts, saying this shirt is for the barbecue competition.
You planned the trip.
This one is for the Indian dinner. This one is for the Asian dinner.
was
I won't miss this shirt.
I wore a reddish shirt for the barbecue competition because I knew that most of the sauces would be red.
Oh, it was color coded. I was wondering if it was going to be based on absorbency or the ability to retain flavor later for a little suck in the hotel.
There was some 1:00 in the morning pizza in New York City that was quite delicious.
There was some.
It's New York City, man.
There was
they've got
daily
food,
New York City
they've got
1:00
food
pizza.
24 hours a day, and you could buy a slice of pizza for $1.
And by the way, I'm sure you're someone who shares my outlook. I had this debate with my father when we went to New York City for like a one-day trip recently to see the Yankees Red Sox last year. If you go to New York with any sense of taste, with taste buds intact, and you choose to eat in a chain, you should be hit by a bus.
Right.
There are so many restaurants in that city.
I know.
That, I mean, they're everywhere. And here's the thing. You don't have to go broke in New York to eat well. There are so many crappy little hole-in-the-wall restaurants that look like they should be closed that are producing phenomenal food at a reasonable price.
I absolutely agree. The thing about it is, it's hard sometimes to tell the difference.
Yes, absolutely.
But there are some places, for instance, Papaya King.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with it, it's a hot dog joint. Why they call it Papaya King, I'm not quite sure.
The juice. They sell juice.
Is it the juice?
Yeah.
I don't pay attention. I'm there for the dogs.
Shouldn't you be offended that they sell Jews?
Juice.
But I've only gone there once.
I like when he takes me seriously.
I've only gone there once, and the only reason I went there is because Anthony Bourdain went in there on one of his travel shows, saying, "This is a great hot dog. I love this hot dog," just to try it out. But I know it's a chain. There's plenty of hot dog joints in town.
Well, you're going to be underwhelmed anyhow because you're from Chicago.
Oh, totally. They just don't know how to put
done.
the right condiments and the right snap
Which would
of
be
dog.
everything, correct?
Correct.
That would be dragging it through the garden.
Correct. You have to have a wedge of tomato with a wedge of pickle, lettuce, onion, mustard, let me think, what else? Celery seed.
Yep.
And that's it. That's it.
Which I'm fine with all of it except the pickle. I'm not a pickle
I'm
person.
fine with all of it except the hot dog.
You will be at O'MearaCast, you sick.
I don't eat pickles.
Oh, you're going to get one.
They're not.
Have you had a hot dog since you've had the
Because you're going to be
out?
bunking with Will.
Yeah, probably a time or two.
Okay.
I mean, I don't go excessively. I'm not a big hot dog fan in general. Like, there's better options. It's not like there's a lot of great hot dog places in Vermont or hot dog.
Yeah, look at you.
or anything.
Look at you. You are eating all the other healthy options, I can tell.
You know what?
On that note,
I've got a hot dog for you.
Yeah. Save that for Mr. Johnson.
Enjoy the relish.
I'll give you some aioli. all over your face. All right. On that note, out of here. Got to go. So, Jason, Steve, thanks for coming up, and appreciate you guys being on OMearaCast. Please listen to the show that I'm going to be recording on Monday night. I will try to put it out midweek this week. It's going to be an interview with Matt Bloom, the Blumensteiner, is going to be on OMearaCast, and we're going to talk about, who knows, because I'm going to go agendaless and pantless. I don't know. It'll be interesting. So check that out midweek. And otherwise, Jason, Steve, you guys, theoretically we'll be back next week, and we'll talk some more about what happens on TMOS. And as everybody knows, Blog Talk will be going bye-bye. I'll let you guys know on Facebook at facebook.com/OMearaCast. So we transition out of it and move on so that
we don't lose those two people that call weekly.
Look, man, make it sound like my show's important, will you? And outside
we've already said there's 10,000 viewers on Ustream.
Please, if you haven't
we're up
so
to 15
far
now.
15,003.
Okay, shut up, you two. I'm trying to get out of here.
Wait, now it's 2. 15,002.
If you haven't bought your tickets for OMearaCon, I highly recommend that you do. And listen to OMearaCast, because upcoming there may be an opportunity for a ticket and a seat at OMearaCon that you can win. All you have to do is listen to OMearaCast. So,
especially if certain floating cast members don't attend. There may be extras.
And not even going to go there. Otherwise, we'll talk to everybody next week. I'm going to leave you with a little bit of Rob Radio. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Bye-bye. Talk to you next week.
Adios, muchachos.